God! Yeah. It's here. Finally here. You know what? If you question your existence sometimes, or maybe the existence, maybe you're not a really religious person like me, and if someone ever asks you the question, have you ever seen God? Now you can say, yes, I have seen God, and it's a giant frog. Yeah. So that's it. This is Toriko chapter 369, titled What is God? And pretty much the whole point of the chapter is the big reveal on the ingredient or ultimate predator known as God. And yeah, so I was thinking, honestly, Mitsutoshi was going to handle this a little bit differently. I figured, considering how much build-up that this has had since, the beginning, not the first arc of the series, but pretty close. This was going to be handled kind of like the Toriko equivalent of One Piece, except that Toriko is obviously a lot shorter than One Piece, so, getting God now is not, that big of a deal. But it's still a pretty big deal. And at the beginning of the chapter, I expected... you know how Mitsutoshi likes to do it when he introduces a really important ingredient or a really important character? The first few pages of the chapter will be like, all the animals across the world at a single instant all peed their pants in fear. I was expecting him to do that pretty much the entire chapter. The first 15 pages were nothing but every animal looked in every direction, the clouds began to split, the oceans became calm, all the humans at once began to lose themselves in a trance of pure hunger, but no, it was only a few pages. So, going on from last chapter, we have, the gourmet eclipse is still going on, the entire planet is reaching its pretty much below freezing now and is sharply declining, so we have some serious problems there. But that one point in Area 2, why Toriko and the gang are, is steadily rising in temperature, and the reason for that is God is emerging from its hiding hole underneath the Earth's crust. So that one little image we saw last chapter, that black spherical thing with the eyes, it shoots out, but that's not the only one. There's a shit ton more that are underneath it, and they all take the appearance of sort of giant tadpoles, and everyone's looking at it, and they're all getting shot up into the sky, and Gigi notices that, the problem is not just the fact that God is emerging, it's the issue of just how many there are, their size. So they all get shot up into the sky, and they all fall right back down like rain, and they all kind of congeal together into one entity, and a big huge explosion happens, and when the dust settles, God is revealed to basically be just a giant frog with a bunch of antennae, branching off whiskers. Kind of looks like the Namekian thing, the Namekians have that little thing on the top of their heads, the antennae that's coming out of their thing. It's got big eyes, it's got a little dot in its head, and it's got a bunch of the a bunch of spheres on its back, which are all the different parts of it are merged together. So it's basically a frog, and Toriko and everyone else's reaction to this is God is a fucking frog. Okay, I didn't call that, whatever, wonder if it tastes good. So the first thing God does immediately after being arrived, it appears to be asleep at first, but as soon as it opens its eyes a little bit groggily, Gigi freaks the fuck out. There's a panel where his eyes are bugging out, they're like, everybody move, you're gonna some shit's gonna go down. So God releases its tongue, because it's a frog, that's how it eats, it stretches out its tongue, grabs its prey, sucks it back into its gullet, and then swallows it. And I guess when you get swallowed by God, not exactly the same thing as getting swallowed by your average animal, even by Toriko standards. Well, anyway, yeah, it stretches out its tongue directly toward Toriko and the gang, but Sunny thinks fast, and he uses his super spatula, which redirects the blow of God, which I think that says something about Sunny's abilities right there, from what we're going to find out near the end. Redirects the blast, and the tongue gets sent right out of the Earth's atmosphere, and it strikes the moon. And I think you all know where this is going, of course. We have this monster that's being revealed for the first time, so of course, Mitsutoshi needs to show off some incredible, amazing, ridiculous fucking feat of what it can do. And God basically drags the moon out of orbit and just swallows the whole fucking thing whole. Now, I would say that would be more impressive if not for the fact we've seen Neo do pretty much the exact same thing, if not something on a greater level, because Neo was basically able to swallow a collapsing star. I think that's a bigger deal than just the moon, which is like a stationary celestial object, and, you know, Jiro's grand knocking, which apparently could stop the rotation of the Earth. Neo could eat that, and all the other shit that Dawn Slime dropped on it, but, you know, God can eat the moon without much of a problem. So, okay, that's pretty impressive, I suppose. There is one scene with Neo and Acacia here, and it's whenever God is awoken. It's like, we have to get there. Come on, Pear. And you see Pear, the blue nitro, and there's some relationship between those two. There always had, but Pear has always been kind of the weirder, you know, one of the blue nitro that don't really seem to be involved in the same kind of, like, goal as they did, you know? Like, Pear was the one that Toriko and the gang first met on the vegetable sky. Pear was the one that apparently communed with Acacia at the last gourmet eclipse. So Pear and Acacia have some sort of connection, and Pear's motives are probably not the same motives as the rest of the blue nitro. Well, anyway, yeah, we just get one panel of that. We get one panel of Joa also kind of saying, you know, we have to go there now. Well, anyway, so yeah, Pear swallows the entire moon, and Gigi begins to explain, like, you know, I've seen many gods appear before, but every time God appears, it's always been the tiny tadpoles that you saw, not this giant frog. And every time that God does appear, you know, a massive amounts of life go, you know, extinct on the planet. And that's not because of the ice age that gets brought on by the gourmet eclipse, although I'm sure there's some species that die out with the, you know, gourmet eclipse. But it's just that God appears and eats everything. That's what happens. And he does this little kind of like, you know, little piece of poetry where he's like, all forms of life on this earth come from center, and then all forms of life are eventually returned to God. So center is probably arguably the more interesting ingredient here, because while God pretty much just pops out and eats everything, center is the thing that actually brings life. And this has been hinted at before, because we've seen, like, Durus Dragon, who apparently is the guardian of Center, and it has, like, the saliva, which apparently can heal any wound, and it's due to that healing water that Joa was apparently brought back to life. So apparently there's something with that, and of course, it can you can revive the dead, which is what was referred to a long time ago with Center. So, yeah, Center's whole thing is bringing life into things. So maybe Mitsutoshi's trying to push more, like, yeah, God's cool and everything, but Center's way cooler. So we still have one of the Acacia's full course left, so I'm not exactly saying this is underwhelming, you know, I'm just saying that after 368 chapters, we're finally here, and God is a frog. Well, anyway, after swallowing the moon whole, by the way, that's some really good fucking aim Sunny had, you know, Sunny's like, oh shit, gotta redirect it, super spatula. You know, there's any number of angles you could have shot that thing at, but it ended up hitting the fucking moon. It's the moon. What's going to happen now? Although, given the size of the Toriko, of the planet Earth and Toriko, I would say that that's possible. There's multiple moons. But yeah, it's some pretty good aim. Although I'm sure if it did miss the moon, it would probably just keep stretching on for millions of miles out to space until it, you know, came in contact. Oh, this is a sun. All right, I'll eat this. You know, whatever. It's Toriko. It's complete nonsense half the time. Anyway, after swallowing the moon, it plays its attention back to Toriko and the gang, and it releases its tongue again to try to eat it. And everybody throws up, like, their strongest defensive techniques. You know, Toriko uses Fork Shield, and uses Otokabe, Sound Wall, Zebra, I'm trying to think of his Starjune. There we go. I'm so blown away by meeting God. I forgot the character's name. Starjune uses Fire Shield. They all try to block it. They get kind of knocked back a little bit. And in the middle of the tussle, it turns out that Komatsu ends up getting engulfed by God's tongue and begins to get sucked away. So yeah, everyone's kind of freaking out here. Zebra and Sunny both think pretty quickly, and they coat him in sound armor and remote hair, respectively. And Toriko, of course, has to his parental, you know, guardian instincts. I gotta protect Komatsu, and he comes rushing toward God. And Gigi holds him back. He's like, "Oh, hold on there, cowboy! Like, you cannot go rushing carelessly at that thing. Seriously, it'll just slurp your life away in an instant." Which is funny because that's what happened with Komatsu. Komatsu got, you know, touched by the tongue, and he didn't die. Well, anyway, Toriko is pretty enraged, so he's just like, what are you talking about, Gigi? Slurp my life away. I think you're a little bit confused. We're the ones that are going to eat this thing. I've been waiting for this for so damn long. So everybody is just kind of staring up, and Zebra and Sunny confirm, like using, Sunny's remote hair. He's like, and Zebra's sound. He's like, no, he's still alive. He's inside the frog. And Starjune mentions, well, God is the king of all ingredients, so does that mean he's also the king of all predators? And Toriko's like, well, I guess we'll find out who's going to get eaten first. And then we get the final page of the chapter where God is just kind of looking down at Toriko. Not really, he doesn't really express any sense of fear or anything. It just sees them probably as just another thing to eat. And most of the final page gets taken up by another menu entry. And the menu entry is this. I will just show it to you here. Here's the menu entry. Gourmet World, last menu, God, Divine Beast. I think that's the first time we've ever seen Divine Beast category. Capture level, 10 fucking thousand. So, way beyond anything even the 8 kings have shown us so far is the capture level for God. And you know what the thing is? I don't even think that's going to be the highest capture level we're going to see in this series. We still got Center or Duras Dragon, and we also still got that thing that apparently can eat the sun, which I don't know. Is that God? It might have been God. I don't know. The thing that's eating the sun. I mean, hey, it happened along the time of the Gourmet Eclipse, so that might have actually been the God. That might actually be God they were referring to, the entity that could eat the sun. Well, anyway, that's the end, and like I said, not really much of the chapter other than God revealing itself. I'm not upset about it. I was interested in God becoming an enemy. I didn't figure that. I didn't think that God was going to turn out to be an actual, animal they would have to fight. I always assumed God was going to be some sort of, metaphysical thing, it's like an orb of light or some shit like that. Something that's, beyond your normal comprehensions of food. And even with this, I'm sure that God is not the kind of thing you can just, kill and then eat. I wouldn't be surprised if when Komatsu gets sucked in, the inside of God's stomach is this, and Kirby's basically, just this endless, expansive, everything it's ever eaten in this pocket universe. That wouldn't surprise me in a slightest. But yeah, everyone's probably going to converge on this now. Joe is heading toward it. Neo's heading toward it. Pear is heading toward it. And I don't know how this is going to work, if everyone's going to have to show and, all right, team up to try to take this thing down, or I have to get to Komatsu back some way. So I don't know how that's going to work. Well, anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get off here now, guys, because I'm crappy. I'm just felt like shit today. I mean, I felt sick. My throat is dead already. It's been pretty much, destroyed all day, and I've mustered it just so I could talk about this because it's a pretty big deal. I felt like I needed to talk about the revealing of God. Bleach review should be out tomorrow, provided I feel better. I'm going to finish eating this sandwich and then probably pass out and hit the hay. Alright, well anyway, thanks for guys for watching. What do you think's going to happen with God? Where do you think Komatsu's headed? If the inside of God's stomach, what's it like? And considering this is the last item on the menu, there's the last thing they're going to hunt for. What do you feel about Center? Because that still has to be a thing. That still has to be resolved in some way. I'm thinking, worst case scenario, God eats everything. You could just use Center to revive it. That's an idea. And that's what's happened before, apparently, on the planet. That's what Gigi said. But anyway, thanks you guys for watching. This will be Tekking, signing out.